Hi guys, today is day 19 and we are looking at lesson 53. So we only got one lesson today, shouldn't take that long. So we're continuing to work with decimals, okay, and then working to simplify fractions. We've done a lot of this already when we're calculating products, quotients, and things like that. Okay. So decimal charts, again, if we're adding or subtracting, and we can read through this all, or it's summarized down here. So when we're performing addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, here is kind of the rules that we follow, especially if we're doing it by hand. So adding or subtracting, we make sure that the decimal lines up. Okay, just like when we're adding or subtracting any number, the place values have to line up. And if we line up our decimal, then our decimals, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and so on are going to line up. But also our whole numbers, our ones place, our tens, hundreds, thousands, and so on. So if the decimals are lined up, addition and subtraction, then we just add or subtract like any number we've done since elementary school. Multiplying, we just multiply. So if I have, let's say 0.2 times 0.3. Okay, what I do is I think, and you could do it, vertically as well. Okay, if that helps you. Sometimes we'll get into longer expressions where we have to perform multiple calculations, so it'll work left to right. It'll be drawn out horizontally, but if it's just this, we can stack it and multiply. So instead of 0.2 times 0.3, what is that? We don't ignore the decimals, but we do for right now. So just what's 2 times 3? Well, that's 6. That one's not that hard. Now, how many decimal places did we have? We had 1, 2. Okay, so we'd start here. It's 2 times 3 is 6, but it's not 2 times 3. It's 0.2 times 0.3. So then 2 decimal places, I go 1, 2, and then fill in my 0. So it's 0.06. So you'll see, obviously, decimal numbers and their whole number counterparts do look a lot the same. 2 times 3 is 6. So 0.2 times 0.3, 2 decimal places, it becomes 0.06. So that's, we're not necessarily lining them up and carrying it down. We're multiplying as if there were no decimals. And then whether we have 1, 2, 3, 4, however many decimal places, then we shift the decimal. Division, dividing by a whole number. Okay, let's say we have 1.2 divided by 3. Okay, well, my decimal's right there under my division bar, or my division box, so I'm going to put it right there in my solution. 3 does not go into 1, okay, and then 3 goes into 12 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12, so I have nothing left over. So that's what we do with that. And then we've talked about briefly, but if we're dividing by a decimal number, let's say we have 0.3 or 3 divided by 0.3. Well, how many times does 0.3 go into 3? We could sit there and 0.3, 0.6, 0.9. Or what we can do is we can shift the decimal because we want to divide by a whole number, just especially if we're doing it by hand to make it a little bit easier. If I move the decimal or multiply by 10, in this case, I have to do the same thing under here. So here would be my decimal. Okay, I move it one place to the right. I moved it to the right. I got to move it to the right. I can't just move this one and keep this the same. That's obviously a completely different answer. Now we're left with 30 divided by 3. Oh, well, that 3 goes into 3 once and 0 times. 30 divided by 3 is 10. So it's a lot easier when we are dividing by a whole number. So that's what we need to do. If we're dividing by a whole number and there's a decimal number under here, that's fine. We just looked at an example of that. We just want to make sure that we're dividing by a whole number just to make life easier. And those are still equivalent. 0.3 or 3 divided by 0.3 and 30 divided by 3 are the same thing. Since we multiplied the dividend and the divisor by, in that example, 10 each, then we're able to keep it equivalent. It's just easier to multiply it out when we do that. Okay, and then simplifying fractions, okay, we reduce. So we look at, is there anything we can factor out of the numerator and the denominator? If there's not, then we just keep it as is. So if we have this example right here, we have common denominators, which is great. We have to have that. So we have 4/5 plus 5/6. 4 plus 5 is 9. Okay, so I end up with 9/6. But we got to reduce that. Again, we're going to lose points on tests and things like that if we don't reduce. 9/6, we're so close, but we have to factor out 3 out of the numerator and the denominator. If we do 9 divided by 3, or 3 goes into 9 3 times and into 6 2 times. So we're left with 3 halves, or if we want to make that into a mixed number, 2 goes into 3 once with 1 left over that's being divided by 2. Right. All right, practice set we will do together. That's all we got for today. So we'll see you guys here before too long.